Okay, let's look at converting or renaming decimals as percents. Something you really need to know very well is the names of the decimal place values, such as tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and 10,000ths. Those are to the right of the decimal place. So we can take this decimal and read it out loud as 63 hundredths. And 63 hundredths then would be a fraction, 63 hundredths. And if it's out of 100, there's your percent, 63%. So go ahead and pause the video and do this 28 hundredths, renaming it or converting it into a percent. So we'd write it as 28 hundredths, which is automatically our percent, 28%. Now we know this is going to be read out loud as 4 tenths, since the 4 is in the tenths place value. So writing that as a decimal, 4 tenths. But wait. To get it to a percent, we need 100 as the denominator. So if we just multiply the numerator and denominator by 10 over 10, which by the way is equal or equivalent to 1, so it's not changing the value, just the way it looks. And we get 40 hundredths. And there then would be your percent, 40%. Or if you prefer, you could first rename the decimal by adding a 0 behind it. So we have a little tail 0 on there, and there's 40 hundredths. Once you have that, then you know your percent is 40%. So how about now if we move them from percents into decimals? So if it's a percentage, you know you can automatically place it over the denominator 100, since our definition of percent means out of 100. So we have 54 hundredths. And since we just read it, 54 hundredths, there's your decimal. So here's one similar, but it only has one digit. This is 8%. So we know we're going to write it over 100. And now we read that out loud, it's 8 hundredths. So be careful where you place the 8. It's going to have to be in the hundredths place value. There's your decimal, 8 hundredths. We can also convert fractions into percents. So we have the fraction of 5/6, and we can think of using division as our method here. What does that fraction bar mean to do? Well, it even looks kind of like a division symbol, where these two dots are the numerator and denominator. So we're going to take 5 divided by 6. You add a decimal and a few zeros and start dividing. 6 times 8 is 48. We subtract to get 20, bring down, and that goes in there 3 times because 6 times 3 is 18. We subtract, we get 20 again, so our 3's are going to be repeating forever. So our percent would be, well, first we can write it as a decimal. 0.833 ... means the 3's repeating. And we can move our decimal over 2 places, which is the same thing as multiplying by 100. Remember, percent has to do with that number 100. So we move it over 2 place values to the right, and we end up with 83.3 rounded to their percent. Now sometimes there's a different method that you might like to use when renaming a fraction as a percent. It will be if there's ever what's called a compatible number here on the bottom, the denominator. We can use equivalent fractions. So let me show you how that would look. We would write 4 over 20, and we're saying that we want it to be something over 100 because we're changing it into a percent. So how does 20 become 100? For the denominator, we're going to multiply by 5. So we'd also have to multiply the numerator by 5, and we would get 20 over 100. So there's your percent then, 20%.